David, and this is the Most High Show. By the way, I'm David, the addict and alcoholic and all those things. However, I'm a man working a program and loving life in recovery as well. All right, so if you're not familiar with the Most High Show, all right, it is a platform where people in recovery are sharing their stories. They're telling what their life is like, what their life was like. We're going to talk about the struggles and the joy of what sobriety and recovery looks like.
Wait, I think we're on the wrong page.
Oh, no.
It's all right, let's start over.
Hold on, for reals?
Yeah.
I was killing it.
And the stream and the...
Oh, you put it on the journey?
Yeah, that's my bad.
My name is David. I'm an addict, and I'm also the host of The Most High Show. The Most High Show, if you're not familiar, The Most High Show is a platform where people get on and they share their journey through recovery, through addiction. And it's all in real time. It's a real story from real people. And tonight, the person that's gracing us in the decadent seat of service is my brother Ray. We'll be welcoming him in a few minutes. But before that, we're going to have the mystic moment, and all that begins as soon as you check out the intro. Jeff, hit him.
Welcome to the Most High Show, a show about recovery, spirituality, and all that. Produced, posted, and hosted by people in recovery who have strength and hope and want to share it with you. If you or someone you love is suffering, we want you to know you are not alone. This is the Most High Show.
What's going on, folks? All right, welcome back. By the way, that intro with all the cool scenes and the music and the person singing and rapping and all that is all done by my good brother, Reverend Christian Jansen, who is the creator and co-producer of this show and the Most High app in general. He does it with his wife, and we're all here, just rocking out with him because he's just a pretty awesome dude. And another thing that he does, we do a segment here called The Mystic Moment, and Christian is cool enough to grace us with that moment. Welcome, my friend.
Dang, dude.
Hey, man.
Gassing me up,
Yo,
player.
It's the truth, baby.
I hope my wife is listening to all this.
What's going on, man?
What's going on? Just right here, player. Right here.
My chin hairs keep sticking to the mic.
Today's Mystic Moment is brought to you by a poet called Hafez. And the book is called I Heard God Laughing.
All right.
So he is a poet born in Persia.
Cool.
Kind of I guess, 1320 to 1389.
Okay.
So this dude's old school.
Old school for real.
And so these are collections of his writings out of this book.
That's
amazing. He writes a lot about God. And he writes a lot about God being a lover. And it's a lot like a psalm or a Song of Solomon or something like that. So the poem I'm going to read is called Someone Should Start Laughing.
Okay. Let's hear it.
I have 1,000 brilliant lies for the question, how are you? I have 1,000 brilliant lies for the question, what is God? If you think that the truth can be known from words, if you think that the sun and the ocean can pass through that tiny opening called the mouth, oh, someone should start laughing. Someone should start wildly laughing now.
That's awesome.
It's beautiful.
I'm feeling every bit of that. I get we try in our small little pea minds to try to make statements of who God is, what God does, what he's about, this whole faith system that each of us probably carry. I'm not taking away from it, but it's so small, compared to the ocean, man.
Right.
It's so small compared to like a beautiful tree and nature and all our surroundings that are like unexplainable. That's where I see God a lot. And I just started noticing that, doing my best to practice mindfulness and being with my kid. Like, she schools me on these things as we walk because she really appreciates, nature and like the bigness of it all, That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like that.
Children bring you into the moment.
They do, dude.
Yeah.
My kid puts me in the moment.
Yeah.
Helps me pay attention.
Ray, what about for you? When you hear that poem, does it make you think anything, or?
I have to go with the same thing, probably just the mindfulness thing. I've been trying to find a lot of that myself. I've been doing a lot of traveling. I've been going to see my kids a lot more, so
Awesome,
definitely
man.
helps bring some more joy into my life and stuff like that.
Yeah, it makes the presence of God and to me, it just brings the presence of God. It makes it so much more than what our mouths can actually explain,
Yeah.
as we're trying to explain it now, I guess.
Yeah. Art gets to do things, and poems and artists get to do things, when it comes to things like this, right? Complex, kind of this grand idea of God, right?
Right.
A benevolent creator, right? And in art, you get to capture it without capturing it, And that's what I really like about this poem. It is like that. If it could pass through the tiny opening called the mouth. The thing I really like is I have 1,000 brilliant lies for the question, how are you?
Right.
Because I never know how to answer that question. And so sometimes I've been answering it lately. Technically, I'm okay. That's my response. Because technically, I'm fine.
Right.
There's really nothing wrong about my life. But my mind doesn't know that.
Right.
My mind doesn't know
There's
that
a whole different thing going on.
Yeah. And it has to be reminded by things like nature, right?
Yeah.
By things like the sunset, the trees.
It humbles you up, man. It puts you in the presence of something so much bigger, so much like more than what we could capture even. You see that in things like in scenes like that and in art.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, if
it's art, it is art. It's God's art.
Yeah. There are no straight lines in
right.
nature.
Amen.
So two things I'm thinking of right now, I'm just freestyling this right now.
Word up.
Last Tuesday, I watched a squirrel climb a fence. And that was a trip. Because that little squirrel was just like,
effortlessly.
Yeah. And, and the other thing is, talking about Yeshua of Nazareth, right? My guru, Jesus.
Amen.
He's always pointing to nature, right?
Right.
Look at the birds in the sky. Look at the grass in the field. Look at this. Look at, and he points to like the vine and the branches. He's always pointing to nature because he's pointing. And to me, what he's doing is pointing to there's a natural order of life happening. And if you want to get into the bigger picture, just look there.
Right.
Right. Like the fields of the grass, which is here today and gone tomorrow. Right. And then us humans who, hopefully you live on this earth for 80 years or something like that. Right.
Yeah.
We have the ability to influence and so much more. So he says, how much more does that clothe the grass?
Right.
Will it clothe you, right? The birds don't sow or reap or store in a barn house, right?
They're not worrying about tomorrow.
But they're not worried.
Yeah.
And if God's going to feed and clothe that. So it's like, to me, he's pointing to there's this natural flow of life. And I think of, if you've ever seen like in a movie, or maybe you've seen it in person, right? Like in North Georgia, you'll see like an old abandoned building, and then you can see the nature starting to claim back the building.
Oh yeah.
The vines are growing on it, and the branch and everything's like or like in an old sci-fi movie or something like that, and you see like everything's starting to take back because the earth will eventually reclaim all this that was
whatever
built.
it is.
Yeah.
If we're not tediously trying to maintain it, we step back from it, nature is taking it right back over. I don't care, what kind of man-made object it is. The Great Wall of China, if it's not maintained, it'll be covered.
Yeah.
That's a big piece of wall. That's an enormous structure.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You know, I'm also, as we're talking, I'm kind of reflecting on that. Like, I think this week I've been in the crib a lot, like just up in here. And it's a nice week this week outside up in Atlanta.
Yeah.
The weatherman told us it wasn't going to rain. Now we sitting in a drop top soaking wet in a silk suit trying not to sweat.
Yeah.
I didn't know
Shout out.
all the things that Outkast said. You know, I love Outkast, and I'm from the West Coast.
Oh yeah, how much it like really grips
And
Atlanta.
then I live here, and then I'm
Right.
like,
Then you get
now
it.
I know what they're saying, you know, and Goody Mob and all that stuff. Anyway,
Big Gip.
but I didn't really connect with it, you know. But I think like it doesn't take a lot. It's just like that, seeing that squirrel
yeah.
and just going, oh, look at this little guy just climbing a fence like you know thing.
Right, and you know, and it is the nature of things. That is the natural order of things, regardless of what. You know, we think of ourselves as being intelligent enough or having the power to destroy this world, right? And I think scientifically it shows that it's possible, right? But I don't think it's compared to when you go outside and look, it's so far more than what you can really fathom if you pay attention to it. You know what I mean? And it's little things that I was just talking about today. You know, we take, like a sunset or I was out at the beach and I enjoyed it so much. And I was like, man, we take these things so for granted, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like awesomeness, how that has got to be put in order for us to even exist here, And the scripture that you talked about really, it really makes me feel like special, because when when Jesus is referring to, hey, the birds ain't worried about it, so what are you sweating it for?
Yeah.
It's like, you don't think I'm going to look out for you? So it kind of gives me a little oomph of my presence in this, little as it is, in this whole thing. You know what I mean?
The last thing I think on this, on that topic, of that scripture that I heard someone talk about, which might have been Oswald Chambers, and he said, the thing about the bird and the grass is it's where it should be. Right? The bird's in the air.
Yeah.
The grass is in the field. And I think when we start living our lives according to a set of good orderly direction and principles that's above our own selfish desires, that we kind of get to that place where we belong, then all this stuff kind of starts to open up. Then you see, and it'll sound weird, but you see God in a squirrel. You see God in a tree.
Absolutely.
You become connected. Thich Nhat Hanh says, I see the cosmos in a tree. I see the earth in the tree. I see the air in the tree. I see the rain in the tree. I see the sun in the tree.
Right.
Because a tree can't exist without all those elements.
Amen.
The tree is a combination of all those elements.
Working in a certain way.
Dude.
Working in order.
It's brilliant.
It's not random, bro.
And they're all over the freaking place.
Yeah. Endlessly.
Just open your
Just pop
freaking
it
window and look at a tree, and you can immediately be transported to the cosmos. That sounds really weird, but I'm telling you, bro.
You're looking at God's miracle right
there. It's all contained in a freaking thing that we're going to cut down and then slice into pieces of paper so we can write things on a piece of paper that tell us to look at a freaking tree.
That's good. That's good, man. Thank you, dude. That's freaking
Thank you.
excellent, man. That was my man, Reverend Christian Jansen, with The Mystic Moment. Now, after we go ahead and take this break and pay the bills with some awesome ass advertisement that my brother created himself, I got to give him props, man, because it's true. This is what he does. My boy does it. My man Christian does all this, man. And we're able to just be receivers of all this, man, and how God's working in his life. But after these messages, we are going to get with my brother Ray in the seat of service, and we're going to get down and get to know this man a little bit better. Thank you, Jeff.
Why Most High Media? Because I don't have the answers. Other people do. And learning from the experiences, the stories, the perspectives, seeing people who've been through the darkest of circumstances and then have come out of it on the other side and have lived extremely exciting, fulfilling lives and tapped into a way of being and a way of living, but it's actually real and obtainable. That's why.
We packed up to tell the story of a young lady who lost her daughter.
So there's a extremely high correlation between suicide, mental illness, and substance abuse.
Come on the ground. Come on the ground. Sir.
I think as of this year, there's about 14 million people in America who have a co-occurring disorder, and a little more than 7% of them seek help for it.
You know, in my addiction, I felt like I was better off dead.
I'm here to talk about my daughter, Megan, who committed suicide when she was 28.
There's enough hope in the people that do recover to where I keep going and keep showing up at places where I'm needed.
Ain't no high like the most high. Ain't no high. Ain't no high like the most high. Ain't no high. Holla if you need some things like love and change. I'm not talking coins and things or diamond rings. Everybody wants some change, but don't nobody wanna do nothing till the pain they can't stomach. And they told me that I believed them, so I gave them to the. Everybody thought that I was tripping, saying that I be acting different. Ain't no high like the most high. Ain't no high like the most high. Ain't no high like the most high. Ain't no high. Ain't no high like the most high.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Hopefully you watched the segment through the break and seen all the documentaries and all the stuff that we have advertised on the Netflix of recovery, the Most High app and the Most High show and all that intakes. But right now, okay, we're getting to what I always call the meat of the show. And that is introducing the gentleman that is taking his time and showing the courage to show some vulnerability for us. You know what I mean? He's sitting in the seat of service, and we're going to get to know my brother Ray right now. And welcome, man. Welcome to the show, bro. Thank you for coming. Now, I want to start this off on the right foot, so I just want to tell you something, okay? Now, you're a first for us, okay? There's an aspect of you that is a first for us, and we are very honored to have you there for one of those reasons, amongst other reasons. So I want to start off by saying, my grandfather was in Vietnam, my stepdad was in Vietnam, and my biological father, who I've never known, was in Vietnam. And my brother saw action in Afghanistan and I believe a little bit of time in Iran in the Air Force, right? So in my mind, I feel like a soldier. But it's in my sick mind. I feel like I'm so in tune because it's been through my family. I've been a brat of the military, my whole life. So again, I know you're a vet. Thank you for your service. And, in this story, I'm hoping that we could really chime in on that aspect of your life as well. But the first question I have to ask you is, what is today looking like for Ray?
I've actually had a pretty great day today.
Awesome.
A little bit of work this morning, run around, do some errands, and kind of prepping myself mentally.
Oh yeah, for here.
This. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I've done it before, but it's still playing mind games, running it through my head, the obsession thing.
So you're living a life in sobriety and recovery right now, and I know you're dealing, like all of us here, you're dealing with, the life on life stuff. How is it going? How are you handling those things today? In sobriety.
I actually handle them pretty well. I mean, 2 days ago, my car broke down on me. The alternator went out. Cost me a little bit of money, but I'm thankful that where I'm at in my recovery, that issues like that don't cause too much stress on me. I was able to get it fixed the same day. I got great connections with people, and I'm
really
able
cool
to afford it.
So one thing that the viewers might not know as well is that we don't know each other, but we know each other. I mean, sometimes the road to recovery, it's big, but sometimes, through interactions and networking, it becomes a little bit smaller and more tangible. So I know you through a friend, through Mira. Shout out Mira, 2 years. Congratulations. 2 years of sobriety. Congrats. So I met you kind of through her, just in passing, but through that time, I know what stood out to me in conversation with her was all the service work that you were doing. So you want to get into? Can you explain some of that you were doing? I don't know if you're still currently involved in all that, but can you give us some of that?
I still do service a lot. It's more on the back end, more helping individuals out. I have a lot of people in recovery that go to these programs and they'll reach out to me, like telling me they're having a bad day, or I'll talk to them or whatever.
Really cool.
Kind of help them get,
because you were transporting. You were doing a good bit of transporting for a good while too. And what I mean by transporting is that Ray was, people off the streets, maybe coming out of detox and having to get from point A to point B. And one thing that I think should be said is, it seems simple to a lot of people to get from point A to point B, having to get a ride from this destination to another destination. But when you're a sick and suffering addict and you're trying to change your life and you're trying to get from one place and trying to get to the next place to help you in your sobriety and recovery, man, it's like 100 miles away. And there's so little, services that help you get from, let's say, like a detox to a treatment center, from a treatment center to a residential living arrangement, like a sober living, So Ray was doing that for a while, and that's how I really, that's whenever we friended each other on Facebook, I was like, oh, that's the dude that's like really helping out, you know what I mean? And, I really appreciate that. So thank you for that service big time and what you're doing right now, you know what I mean? It seems like from this little bit of talking that you are involved. Oh, you're also, you own your own business too. Give that a plug right now.
Definitely. Yeah, I enjoyed transporting people. I always made sure, like, most of these people were coming off of 12, 14-hour Greyhound bus rides, which if you've ever been on a Greyhound, isn't pleasant at all. But they usually came off with no money, kind of hungry, or starving. So I always
nothing.
Yeah, I always made sure I took them somewhere to eat before I dropped them off, either at the Love Hub or one of the sober livings.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome, man. But I was saying, plus you have a business too.
Yes.
What does that entail?
I do remodeling, like residential remodeling and home improvements. I try to hire people that are in recovery as well.
Yeah.
It was kind of a big thing when I got into recovery that helped me, was finding a stable job and getting back into real life and trying to deal with the temptations and struggles.
Sure.
Yeah.
Man, that is for real, that's pretty amazing. You know what I mean? And, so from this little breakdown, I get that you are a person in recovery, working and helping and being of service, which is, essential to living your own life of recovery. And that's what I think. That's my opinion. But that being said, this is a show where we kind of dig in and we're going to get to know you, as much as it sounds like things are going well for you today, which is such a blessing from God, I know it wasn't always like that. Definitely. I don't even know you, and I know it wasn't always like that, right? Yeah. So what I would like to do is go back to where you think you should start, and like to give us a little bit of who Ray is and what you've been through, your struggles, and what got you here today.
All right. So I guess I'll go back a little bit into the beginning. So I was born in New Mexico, Alamogordo.
Okay.
My dad was in the Air Force, and so I was always in a military family setting. Yeah. Grew up in it, traveled a lot. We didn't really stay anywhere for too long. At any point in time, it was usually a couple of years, except for when my dad was stationed in Eglin Air Force Base, Florida. Mm-hmm. We spent about 8 years there.
That was okay. That was like
so
the most probably most
I kind
stable.
of claimed that area, my hometown.
I was
area.
wondering, I was thinking. I know you told me you claimed Florida, so okay, right. I get it.
But so to, I guess, put everything in perspective in a way that doesn't like, because I have no hard feelings towards any family or anything. My dad was an alcoholic, and so I kind of grew up around it. It was kind of the norm for me. He also was in the Air Force, so there were some times where he would have to go on leave or whatever, like Iceland. He went for like a year or something like that when I was real young. So it was my mom raising me and my brother, who's 13 months younger than me.
Wow. While he's overseas and stuff
right.
like that, on those TDYs or those.
Yeah, definitely.
Gotcha.
TDY.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, there was the normal, like, parents fighting, usually involved. It was over the alcohol or whatever kind of things happened. But
so you saw a man with a drinking problem that you knew had a drinking problem.
Right.
Okay.
And yeah, I just didn't realize that it was a problem per se. I just, when you're young, you don't see that alcohol is the cause of your parents' problems.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there was more to it, but either way, anyways, so I guess like, I think most of my stuff was probably in school where I started realizing, I guess, these feelings of inadequacy or not being good enough or not looking good enough. I just didn't feel like I really fit in too well. My brother, he was kind of more of the popular one.
Right.
And I guess I was the oldest as well, too, so I kind of felt like I was the black sheep in a way. My brother got more attention than I did because he was the baby at the time.
Right. That has to be tough, you know, just for what you said. I'm the oldest, and like this little dude below me, you know, my sibling, and then there's always like something there, right?
Right.
There's always some sort of like competition or, you know, what they say,
Exactly.
like rivalry. There's always something there, no matter how much you love each other, right?
Right.
So you see that, and it doesn't leave a good feeling, man.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I'd get in trouble for things he would do sometimes, like he'd blame me, but either way, it doesn't really, that wasn't really the case. I mean, I guess for me, it was like how other people in school treated me. I was kind of a shy, quiet kid. I definitely wasn't anywhere near as outgoing and friendly as I am now.
Right.
I've learned to be more confident in myself over the years,
Awesome.
like in the military. But so I hung out with like the goth kids and the nerds. I consider myself pretty nerdy. I used to watch a lot of animes, play video games all day, that kind of thing. So yeah, we moved to Texas. I was about 15 years old in middle school, Shepherd Air Force Base in Wichita Falls.
Okay.
And a couple of kids down the street, they were a couple years older than me and my brother.
So how old are you at the time when you go to Texas? How old are you?
I was about 14, 15 years old in middle school.
Okay.
Couple of kids down the street, they were kind of like the neighborhood gangsters or whatever you want to call them, that like to terrorize.
Wanksters.
Do a lot of stuff they weren't supposed to, the troublemakers. I kind of started hanging out with them.
Okay.
That's when I got introduced to my first time drinking, really. So I kind of stayed away from it for a while because I had to grow up with it. But I started getting that rebellious, wanted to be cool. I thought hanging out with them would make me cool, being a little bit of a troublemaker, smoking cigarettes, drinking a little alcohol, smoking a little weed.
You know, I can really relate to that because almost the same thing, you know, I never thought as a kid growing up that I would ever touch alcohol. I always had I'd never liked it because, you know, it would cause chaos in my house. You know what I mean? So I never saw myself like, I'll never do that. I'm never going to do anything like that. And almost as those words came out of my mouth, I was drinking and smoking cigarettes at a very young age. And it was all because it was almost familiar to me. Like when I saw guys that were accepting me and that I was hanging out with, and that became like part of the thing, even though it was something I didn't like because of the way it affected my life, I knew it. So it wasn't really that hard for me to do it. Not that I was drinking, but I knew it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you started hanging out with those dudes and started partying a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely. And I don't know, it made me feel like I was cool, like I was doing something. About the time I got into high school, 9th grade, it got even worse. Like I started skipping school. I pretty much skipped almost all the 10th grade and 11th grade. And then by the time I should have been a senior in high school, I just completely dropped out. My parents got a divorce when I was 16, almost 17.
What was that like? And you, like, what was that?
For me at the time, I was okay with it. I was tired of seeing my parents fighting all the time, being unhappy. And I had it in my mind that I didn't want my kids to have to grow up like that when I did have kids. So to backtrack a little bit, when we were still in Florida before we went to Texas, my mom had my sister. She's 24, 25 now, I think. And so she was the baby after that, but just throw that in there.
Yeah.
So my parents, through that divorce, it was still, they were trying to stay together for the kids.
Yeah.
Especially since my sister was around now.
Okay.
Me and my brother were grown. She was probably about a few years old, maybe. And
so you're getting a perspective now, you know, because you're old enough to, you're probably seeing they're staying together because of my sister. Like they're just
of all of us. But I was like, basically told my mom, like, hey, me and Aaron are grown. Like, you shouldn't be unhappy type of deal. Like, maybe it's time y'all to part ways. I mean, my sister was young enough that it was probably okay. She'd be able to handle it. Or actually, I think it was more she was old enough at the time to be able to understand what was going on and it needed to be done. So my dad got stationed to Virginia after that. I think my brother and my sister went to go live with my dad, and I decided to follow. My mom went back to Florida with my aunt and uncle down there. Yeah, for a little bit. Then we went down to Florida to go stay with my mom. I got into a little bit of trouble before I left, and my dad had to come pick me up and bring me back to Virginia to take care of that.
What was that?
It was contributing to the delinquency of a minor and petty larceny.
Ooh.
I went into a Kmart with some friends that decided they wanted to steal alcohol from that Kmart that we knew had cameras in that aisle. I didn't steal from them. I went in the door, walked out the door. The only reason they got me is because I walked in with the people doing it. One of them was 15. I was 18. Yeah. So they said I was contributing to delinquency of a minor as well.
You're the one that's going to pay for all this.
Right.
Kmart, for those who are listening,
was
basically in between Dollar Tree and Walmart.
Oh, wow. Yeah, there might be some people that might not know. Man, we're
Kmart.
old, bro.
What is a Kmart?
Yeah. That red K, man, meant everything to me when I was. That's where all the toys were at. When I was a kid.
All the toys were at Toys R Us, which used to be a store that was only for toys. That was every kid's fantasy to go to freaking Toys R Us.
Toys R Us was like a fantasy.
It was amazing.
But it was like I never saw it when I was a kid. All my stuff came from the toy section in Kmart. That was my toy stuff.
Oh, so you trying to be worse off?
I'm telling you, that's the way it was. All right, it was tough. Toys was tough. Okay, no. I'm sorry,
continue.
man.
Sorry about that.
Keep going. My bad, man. My bad.
I was just thinking about it. Alcoholism does run in my family. My grandparents on my mother's side and my uncle on my mother's side. My uncles are all heavy drinkers. My grandparents and my uncle are deceased now. My dad's parents used to drink occasionally here and there. But yeah, so it's definitely was an issue in my family.
Right. You were raised around.
Right. All the time.
People with drinking problems.
4th of July, my dad and uncle would get together. They'd get messed up and all that. So I definitely had to deal with all that came with it. Mm-hmm. But so after I had to go back to Virginia to stay with my dad to handle that legal stuff, I started working a job, and I was working at a pizza place, and I was almost 19 years old, and I was ready to be out of my dad's house. I felt like I was grown, and I didn't want to be living under there because I felt like my dad was strict when in hindsight, he cared and he was trying to keep me in line. And
that's always a hindsight thing, in the moment, he's such a jerk. And then you look back on it, right? He was just trying his best to love me. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I was working at this pizza place right outside the base where I lived, and Army recruiter came in. I had been trying to join the military. I tried the Air Force and the Navy, but they wouldn't take me during that time in 2006, 2007 time frame because they wanted people with high school diplomas or college education.
Got you. Yeah.
Or at least some type of college under your belt.
Right.
Well, the Army recruiter came in, and I was thinking about joining the military, and he's like, "Oh, well, here's my card." Basically, next day I was pretty much shipped off.
Wow. Were you really happy about that? Because you're trying to get out of you tried to join before, and you're trying to get out of your dad's house, under your dad's wing. So are you like optimistic about doing it?
Yeah, I was optimistic about it. Cool. I was like, yeah, this is what I want. I'm finally going to do something. This is after 9/11 happened a few years after. So I'm like, I wanted to do it because of what happened to serve for the country.
Yeah. Awesome.
And
I wonder if it was easier back then, like after all that happened, to get recruited. You think? Did you feel like you were?
I know a recruiter tried to get me to go
during that time period.
No, I was like past.
Oh yeah, okay, that's right.
Yeah, you're trying to age me. But the recruiter tried to get at me in high school.
Yeah.
But all the drug use was like, he was like, "So have you ever, done this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." "Have you ever smoked meth?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Have you ever shot heroin?" "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, okay, well, that's all. We don't need."
All right, well, we're gonna close the. Don't call us, we'll call you.
Yes.
Right.
That was as close as I got to the military.
We talked about it one time.
All right.
Keep going, bro. I'm sorry.
Continue. Sorry. So you sign up after 9/11.
And then I went to Fort Jackson, South Carolina for basic training. During that time, they've accepted females in for a while, but I was at a basic training that had females and males there. So
you were like, score.
Kind of. My female drill sergeant was the meanest one there. Really? But yeah, I got to basic training, and the first day I was like, I want to go back home.
Oh,
It was a little rough at first trying to integrate into that lifestyle.
Absolutely. From where you're coming from?
Right. All the freedom, and then you have no freedom, and they really do. They train your mind to be a totally different person.
They break you down and build you back up.
Exactly. Right? And then I went to Fort Gordon, Georgia for AIT, which is Advanced Individual Training, where I studied to do fixed radios and computers.
Oh, no doubt. Was that something? Is that something that you were kind of familiar with, or was that a whole new thing to you?
I was always into computers. I did a lot of stuff with computers as a teen, like learned HTML, all this stuff, how to fix computers and stuff. So it was kind of up my alley at the time. And then after AIT, my first duty station was Camp Casey, South Korea. 19 years old, going to Korea.
What did you think? You've been a place that I've always wanted to go. That's like a bucket list destination.
Yeah, I loved it. It was beautiful there. I wish I would have spent more time enjoying the scenery and seeing sights than spending all my time at a bar.
Drinking soju?
Oh, yeah. It's a minor racer.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Soju.
What is that?
It's a like liquor that's made out of rice and formaldehyde, and basically, yeah,
it has a hallucinogenic type of.
Say word.
It's very strong.
They sell it at the bar?
They used to never sell it in the United States, and not long ago did they make it legal over here to sell it.
You can't really taste it or smell it. They mix it in Kool-Aid and put it in a big old jug,
like
and you drink
juice.
that. You try to stand up, hit your face on the bar, you're done.
Wow.
But
yeah,
too bad I just found out about this.
To go back to that, though,
10 years late.
The legal drinking age in the military was still 21, but you go off post, and I was 19 years old. None of the Korean bartenders cared if you were 19, because it's legal at 19 in Korea. So I spent most of my time out there on the streets drinking at the bars.
Right.
And
is that where would you say drinking went up a level?
Yeah, that's when I feel like my alcoholism went the next step.
Mm-hmm.
I met a girl from Florida, and I was 19 years old. And when I came back from Korea, I married her.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was like 6 months married. And we went to Fort Lewis, Washington. That was my next duty station. And we had a baby. He's 12 now. I haven't seen him in a few years, but that marriage pretty much fell apart because of my drinking. But while I was in Washington, I deployed to Iraq for a year, Balad, Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was in Iraq, she cheated on me with my best friend. I came back, and the marriage just kept declining. My drinking
kept increasing.
Yeah.
That's a pretty common. I think not that I really know anything about it, but it sounds there's a common story in there. You're young, you get you join the service, you do a tour overseas, you come back. You're young, you're like somewhere in there like you want a partner to go through to go through this experience of being in the military, because a lot of guys get married very young and they have kids. Really, I don't know the stats, but I've just heard this similar stories from guys joining the service, coming home from whatever and getting married really quick and having a kid really young. Yeah.
There's some added bonuses that the military throws in when you do get married. You got to live in a regular house, so they give you housing allowance. You get like extra money just for being married, basically.
Right.
But that's not why I got married at the time. But
were you in love?
I thought I was.
Yeah.
So you weren't necessarily doing it for those reasons.
I did, because I thought I loved her, that kind of thing. Right. And I re-enlisted 2 years in for another 4. I was supposed to do 8 years.
Wow, okay.
After Fort Lewis, I went down. I was stationed to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. About a year there, me and my wife separated. I basically kind of kicked her out with my kid. And then
real quick, so like during this time period, right? So your drinking is increasing. Now you're probably, the reason I would have to imagine you are carrying like no trust and a ton of resentment in the marriage that you're involved with at that time.
Definitely.
Coming back home from serving, getting back and having to deal with that. Your best friend, all this, like emotionally, and you have to go to work, and you have to be on time, that's a disciplined job,
right?
So you have to carry yourself in a certain manner. So I would imagine like putting on that face as a soldier, and once you're clocking out, it's probably like you probably go for it afterwards,
right?
Just to self-medicate almost, from what you're going through.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That's intense, man.
Yeah, it's like being, I guess, so young. She didn't really do much around the house. So it was like I was always coming home to a dirty house, dishes in the sink. Like, didn't really do much cleaning. She was busy playing on Xbox, playing Call of Duty, talking to dudes
while
on
you're
there.
doing Call of Duty.
Right. Yeah. So it's like I had to come home and deal with that. I'm not saying that's any excuse for my drinking and behaviors, whatever. But so we separated. She went to go stay with some friends, and I was basically single. So I played it out as anyway. But I guess like a few months after that, I had a doctor's checkup. I had 2 bulging discs in my lower back, so they started the separation process from the military.
Physical.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got out in 2013 for anxiety, depression, insomnia, and 2 bulging discs in my lower back.
Whoa.
And they cut me a check for $30,000.
Sweet.
I met another girl, moved in with her. After that, I couldn't figure out how to reintegrate to be a normal civilian. I mean, I had a couple jobs here and there, but they didn't last because my drinking was getting to that point.
Just real quick, I mean, are you taking pain medication for your bulging disc at that time? No, none of that?
Medicating with alcohol.
Just alcohol. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Gotcha.
And I basically blew $30,000 in about 6 months on alcohol and going out to the bars. I had full intentions of spending on like putting a down payment on a house or whatnot, paying off my car. Right. You get down to that last $5,000 and you're like, screw it. Might as well just keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. So now I would imagine are you like, so when the separation, are you like really balls to the wall whenever you're separated? Are you really, you're getting discharged, you got all this money. So now when you come to like this last $5,000, you're probably in it to win it, right? You're going hard in the paint.
Yeah. I mean, about that time, I was already so deep with my alcoholism. Like I was starting to get sick from not drinking. I'd wake up with the sweat, shaking, dry heaving, whatever, like feeling like I was going to die. So I just kept drinking.
Right.
Because that was the only thing that helped make me feel better.
So what is civilian life, the beginning of civilian life as a wreck? Does it ever like, are you maneuvering though? Like, are you able to work during all this? After you leave the service, I guess you get what they call like is that a general discharge?
No, I got an honorable discharge.
You got honorable discharge?
Yeah,
okay, cool.
I got out honorably. I don't know. It's one of the problems that I still see that the military it has with people reintegrating back into a normal life after the military. They don't really, I don't know if they do now, but it didn't seem like they really had a lot of resources for when you get out, finding a job or a job that's equivalent to the type of job I was working in the military.
Oh, okay.
Like I was going back to regular fast food or whatever I could find, filling out applications for regular jobs. So
that's got to be a major shift.
That's a hard piece. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're going from such a purpose-filled position, right, where you're part of this larger system. And even though you might be doing this one, like kind of, I don't say small, but maybe specific thing, but you know that you're a part of this larger thing. And then you get kind of brought back to the States, and there's nothing really the equivalent of that kind of purpose and meaning for you to connect to. And then to go to a job like a fast food, and you're just like, you're flipping burgers. It's got to be tough for anyone to deal with that kind of shift, right?
Yeah. Well, there's also the thing, like, you don't really realize how much structure and support, like, you had in the military, or at least I did. Like, I didn't realize how much
what they had to offer there for you,
like,
right?
I had, even though you're still doing normal stuff that people do, like the military still made sure you had a place to live, that you kept a place to live, that you had a vehicle to get yourself to and from work. Like they had stuff in place to keep you mobile and living a normal lifestyle.
Yeah, you're okay.
And then you get out of the military and you don't have any of that backing or structure.
Gone.
you got to just kind of figure it all out yourself.
Well, yeah, and then you going in at such a young age, right? 19,
Right.
You didn't have those years to kind of learn that
Yeah,
kind of
because
stuff.
you're in a whole different thing. You're in a whole different mode. You're
Yeah.
growing up as a man in this like I don't want to say because it's big, but it's still closed in. Like you have these safety nets around you.
Right.
You have this very structured way of going to the next day, to the next day, to the next
Right.
day. It's written out for you.
I was still basically a child when I got
Yeah.
out. All I knew was what I was told to do, how to do it,
Right.
how to live.
You just got really good at drinking.
Right. So I got out. I'm still basically a child. I don't really know how to cope with regular life.
Right.
Yeah.
Balancing.
And then I was
balancing-
already drinking heavily before I got out. So it's
Yeah.
like,
So you didn't know how to balance a checkbook or like, I mean, and there was no like kind of system like, here's this, because 30 grand is a large sum of money, right? And like, was there any kind of, here's the things where you should do, you should take this to this investment account, or any things that kind of help you to how to manage that money? Or
not really. I mean, I had intentions of using it for stuff like
the
investing
words
in a
came
house.
out of your mouth. Right?
Right.
I'm gonna get a car. I'm gonna put this much in the bank. But actually following through and executing the things with like very little knowledge of how to actually do it.
Right.
Just leaves you with a bunch of money in your pocket.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
With good intentions.
Yep.
I know this is not my story, but I just want to share. I used to get a bonus every year, a sizable bonus, $15,000.
Yeah.
And I would blow it every year.
Purposefully.
Oh yeah,
Purposely.
like
this is a
literally
bonus.
Literally blow.
Yeah.
I would blow it up
See
my
you later.
nose.
You're right.
And I think for the first few years of my recovery, I would just kick myself.
Oh yeah.
All that money I wasted. All that money I wasted.
Big bonus.
But the last one I got, that was when I went independent, and I took that bonus and I paid my rent out for like 6 months, 7 months, paid my bills up, and I was like, I flew the, jumped, and but it took me a while to get over all that money I had kind of just.
Oh, that leaves you with. I can imagine left you with some regret, dude. Like what I could have done.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have those feelings too after you blew it all? It was like, damn,
Oh
man.
yeah, tons of regret and shame and
all that.
Where I basically thought back of all the stuff that it went to, and it was all pretty much just booze and whatever else. Me and the girl I was seeing at the time, we broke up. I went back down to Florida to go stay with my mom. Basically broke. I had a few $1,000s left on me,
Right.
which was gone in no time. And then I really wasn't really working. I was living off my little disability check every month, staying at my mom's.
Okay, right.
I was usually drank up in like a week, and so I'd get a job long enough to make it to a paycheck, and then get drunk on the weekends and not show up the next week.
Yeah.
Were you doing any other drugs, or was it just
It was
alcohol?
just alcohol.
Yeah.
Up until about the time I was 26 or so. I was living with my mom. Cute little girl moved in across the street with her 2 kids, and I started seeing her. Ended up getting her pregnant, and I got sober for a little bit because I wanted to be with her and to be there for the baby.
Yeah.
That was my son, Cody. About right after he was born, I picked up a drink again, started doing that. Then
Let's talk about that. For a quick second, okay? So, you're staying clean during this pregnancy because your intention is I want to be a good dad, right? I want to be able to provide. I want to live a right type of life, right? Mm-hmm. And then the baby is born, and then was it what if you looking back on that, what changed your mind from like this intention of like and being clean at that moment, because you're not working a program at that time,
No.
right? You're just stopped drinking. What kind of tilts that back to the alcohol again after the baby's born?
I guess, okay, so I'll draw that back a little bit. I guess one of the things that piqued my interest about her was I always saw her with a drink in her hand. She was a little bit of an alcoholic too. Also, she was a former drug addict at the time. So I didn't really know what that entailed. I mean, the furthest I ever went into any types of drugs was marijuana at that point. I was really big on, no, I'm never doing any of that stuff.
Else, yeah.
I was scared of it. I didn't want nothing to do with it. So she quit drinking when she got pregnant. I quit drinking with her. About the time, a little bit after he was born, we went out to a restaurant and we had a drink together. It had been a while. We were like, okay.
Yeah.
I think I got this under control type of thing.
Yeah.
Like all of us think.
It always starts innocent back up again.
Right.
Yeah.
It got bad. I think she got pregnant with our second son after that. They're about the same age apart as me and my brother were. We thought it would be a good idea to keep them close so they'd keep each other company. And we separated for a little bit because of my drinking. I went to go stay with my mom.
But she's literally across the street from you, though, right?
Yeah, well, my mom had moved at that point. And it was about 6 months, maybe a year we were separated. Like, I still went over to see her and the kids. Well, her mom had moved in with her. She came down from Georgia to go stay down there with her while I was absent, and my mom's ruining my life some more.
Right. So now you got hell of a habit, right? Hell of an addiction, and 3 children now.
Two. Well, 3.
3 altogether, right? Now, are you ever looking at your life at this time going, man, I have a freaking problem with this alcohol, man?
There were times, yes. I mean, there were times where I self-admit myself to the emergency room to try and detox. And so I could try and get sober, but it was never a program or any long-term thing. I didn't want nothing long-term.
Right. So when does that, what happens to get you to that point to where, like, all right, I want to stay sober. I wanted to, like, do you ever, how does the road to recovery start to get put in your life?
That comes a few years later.
Right.
So after the little separation thing, my ex allowed me to move back in with her. Her mom was still staying with us.
Right.
Because I did get sober for a month or so, I think, and she allowed me to come back with her and the kids. Well, her mom was a meth user, and come to find out, she was using meth with her mom. And I was so oblivious to how this whole heart of what normal people, I guess, call hardcore drugs thing was.
Well, it is hardcore drugs.
I mean, it is. But
in reality, meth is hardcore.
They make it in a bathtub.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But,
with all kinds of stuff.
With detergent and Sudafed.
That's hardcore.
That's hardcore.
Yeah. So I was totally oblivious to how all this stuff worked. I just started noticing things. My ex
like
stayed
the house
in the bathroom.
was really clean.
Yeah, Dylan staying up late. I'd be drunk, fall asleep, wake up a few hours later. They'd still be up.
These people never sleep, man.
She'd lock herself in the bathroom for like an hour.
Oh, now it's all being revealed.
I started finding needles laying around, and I'm like, "What's this needle for?" And she would blame it on her mom, whatnot. And so eventually I like coerced it out of her what was really going on. She told me she'd been using meth, and it was IV. And I couldn't figure out why she couldn't get off of it. I was like,
you're ignorant of the whole thing. Like, just stop.
Right. I couldn't stop my drinking, but I wanted her
as
to
you're
stop.
Like down in a case.
Right.
Can't you just stop doing this stuff, man?
Yeah,
you're never
exactly.
sleeping. You're looking crazy.
Right.
Yeah. Well, she was doing it IV, and I was like, well, screw it. Let me try it. I want to see why you're having such a hard time getting off this.
I'll show you. Let me show you how you get off of this stuff.
That's like alcoholic logic.
Right. Exactly.
You can't get off this drug. Let me try it. See what, right? I mean, it is.
Pretty much.
It is exactly
But I mean,
what it
and
is.
that's the thing, like what I think people don't understand is like when you're in active addiction, your logic gets shifted. You don't understand that you know that there's a part of you that knows, okay, I'm drinking, I'm sick in the morning. Maybe I need to get off the drinking. But that it's almost like that connection's not being made in the mind, right?
Or it doesn't last. You get a little glimpse of it, right?
And then it goes right away.
It just goes right away.
And then your significant other's using a drug, and you're like, you shouldn't use it. Why is it so good? Well, let me try it. And that logic really makes sense when you're in active addiction.
Right.
When you're in the mix of it, right.
And to the person outside of it, they go, well, that's crazy. But for
Yeah,
those of
because
us
you're
that
outside,
experienced
you're watching
it,
like, this is like a crazy movie.
right.
Right.
It's like, you know what I'm saying? How is this guy fighting her about this?
Right.
And
Or-
then going, let me do it.
And really, like when people, like loved ones, right, who have someone who they love who's constantly stuck on addiction, right, and they're going out, and they do those things like you said, you self-admit yourself to the hospital every once in a while to try to quit, right, and they wonder why is it not sticking, you know, and like, you know, the steps say like until you're ready, right, until you're ready to become brutally honest and give yourself entirely to this program,
And really say that you're insane.
right, those first two steps,
Yeah.
right.
You have to like admit, like, yo, I'm nuts, man. Like,
Yeah.
I need something else.
So
to
it's really
bring
hard for
sanity
people
back.
who love us, who aren't like us, to see us doing that because they don't understand. Why do you keep, you know, you got a day or two out. Now all you
Right.
got to do is just stay clean. But it's like, that's not the way it works.
No.
Yeah, I think, you know, oh, you've been to the hospital. You're not, you know, because a lot of it, and addicts think that too. Like, you know, if you're coming off of like heroin, right? You really think, oh, just let me not be sick. Right, so you go through that like 2 weeks or something like that, where you're kind of starting to feel normal, but that's when it starts, man.
Right.
That's when like
That's when the obsession starts.
that's when it's
Yeah.
really
You feel normal, and you're like, oh, well, I'm good now.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or you just want to, you know, just,
Right.
you're starting to deal with yourself because the sickness is over, the physical sickness, and now it's a tough.
I mean, it's a reason why they call it a disease, right? It's
Absolutely.
literally a mental illness.
It's a neurological
It's
disease,
a mental
dude.
illness.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So
So,
So you're starting to use meth now. You're
well,
you're
I told her I wanted to do it the way she was doing it.
right.
So I started off straight IV.
yeah.
Oh wow.
And so doing it any other way wasn't good enough for me. I had to do it that way or it was nothing.
Right.
Right. So,
So now but you're putting like you out of the, what do they talk about? Out of the frying pan into the fire.
yeah,
basically.
well,
And now you're on
I
meth and you can drink more.
I realized when I was doing meth, I didn't want to drink as much. So I was like, oh, hey.
Solve
And
some
I can.
problems.
I felt like I could still quit the meth. I was like, oh, okay, I can. I'm not drinking anymore. I'm off that booze. I can quit this stuff anytime. I'm not going to get sick by quitting it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I got a job at the airport. I was working at the airport for a year.
Tweaked out.
I was working mad hours, though, like
Yeah.
16 hours a day, 7
Do
days
not
a
listen
week.
to this if you're on a
Yeah.
Please don't. But anyway,
if you're mid-flight right now, pause and wait till you land safely.
right.
This is an isolated story. Okay.
Right. That's when I started going to jail more frequently, though. It was after that. I went to jail a couple times down in Florida, and me and my ex, we got locked up at the same time. They sent her to rehab. I got out, and I wasn't going to go back to using that night. They let me out the jail. I walked to a hotel because I had a little money on me, got some beer. Some dude at the hotel was like, hey, you want to buy some meth? And I'm like, oh, yeah, let me get an 8-ball. And back to it. I met this guy. We became good friends. And we decided to come up here to Lawrenceville to get an ounce of it because it was only like $200 from somebody here.
Oh, you're coming up here to score.
Yeah, and
Okay.
we were going to sell it back in Florida where the ounce was like $500. And it was usually stepped on down there anyway. It was trash. So
Dirt.
we came up here. We drove around Lawrenceville all day after we got it because he was trying to find some weed. His anxiety was too bad to drive back down to Florida. Well, by the end of the night, I got pissed off and I was like, I'm ready to go. I pretty much already got my stuff sold. Me and him got in a fight. He left me up here. I had half a zip on me and he went back down to Florida. I walked around Gwinnett County like 4 days, fell asleep in the Collins Hill Walmart parking lot, and Gwinnett County picked me up. I woke up to like 6, 7 police cars, And
Did they think you were like dead or something? Or
yeah, they thought I OD'd on heroin or something. They asked to check my bag, and I was like, I got stuff in there. I just was honest with them. I was like, I'm not even from here. I got stuck here. I'm a veteran, this and that. Trying to finagle my way out of getting out of this. So I got into Gwinnett County. I joined the Veterans Treatment Court program, which is like drug court. It's the same accountability court.
Oh, yeah, they have that. That's big in Cherokee County, too.
Yeah. So I started that.
So explain what that program is for people who don't understand what drug court is or what that program is.
Good question.
I actually think it's a really great program. A lot of people talk down on drug court or the accountability courts because they're like, oh, it's just setting you up to go back to jail. But if you're actually doing it and you want to stay clean or sober,
right,
it's great. So it's the courts. They usually have like a term that you serve in this program. You go to classes and you basically follow this case plan of like what they need you to do so you can stay out of going to jail or prison. Like I was supposed to get sentenced to 2 years prison for my charge. So I took that.
So drug courts is an alternative to a jail sentence, basically.
Right. And you follow their program. They drug test you. Starts off like 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Then it lessens. You go to court every week when you first get in, and
it's a tough program.
It's tough.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you're not willing to stay sober.
Yeah.
I made up my mind in Gwinnett County Jail while I was sitting in there. I kept going back and forth of going back to the streets or just getting my crap together. And I sat there one night and I prayed and I was like, please remove the want and desire to drink and use drugs. Like, I'm tired of living like this.
There you go.
I'm up in a state. I have no idea. I have nobody up here. My family's not helping me. I have no friends or family up here. I didn't even know what I was going to do when I got out of jail. But
if you think about it, it's a blessing, right?
It was
biggest blessing.
Yeah, because if you would have been in Florida, you would have had
get to ride back. Everything changes, bro.
I would have went right back to it, guaranteed.
I think that's divine intervention, man.
God brought me here. He separated me from everything.
Literally, geographic put you in a place you didn't know, and you woke up locked up.
The Lord came and dropped your ass off in Atlanta, in disguised as your friend.
Yeah.
But if you wouldn't had, and that's the thing. Like, we think of like God's help, right, as being tulips and freaking rainbows and extra fluffy pillows, and it's not. Sometimes the way the Lord helps us is through those things that we think were the worst times.
Amen.
Right? Yeah, that's amazing.
It's rigorous.
So you take this this veterans drug court kind of thing, right? All right.
But a big thing I think that helped you is your perspective.
Yeah.
See, again, you don't have that perspective of really wanting to complete a program and really wanting to change your life. You fail it immediately. As soon as you can cut a corner, you're going to do it, and you're going to play. You're going to play your cards. But now you're literally really trying to get through this and live different, right?
Yeah. And since I was from out of state and from previous possession charges, they started my case plan off. They sent me straight to Grand Recovery out in Covington.
Okay.
Yeah, that area. So I went there.
So that's how recovery starts entering your life, through this whole drug court into
30-day inpatient. Intensive inpatient.
Yeah.
They took you to meetings a few times a week. This was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Have you there? It wasn't like that shortly after. Then they sent me to Inspire after Grand.
Oh, okay.
I bucked on that program, got kicked out of there like a month after being there.
Hopefully we'll go there soon.
And then they sent me to Serenity House, which is a small little program. I didn't do well there either. I got kicked out of there. Vet court's like, oh, you're not doing anything we're asking you to do, so they put me back in jail. I still hadn't used, but mentally my mind wasn't doing well. My depression, all that.
Other stuff going on.
Yeah, right? I hadn't relapsed, but mentally I just wasn't doing the recovery thing well. So I went to jail for like a month and a half. This is when COVID hit, was while I was in jail. It was like nobody was getting in, nobody was getting out. There's lots of rumors of how to get out or how people were getting out. And then on April's Fool's Day, they pulled me out. And I hadn't heard from the courts or nothing. Like, there's no communication of whether I was getting out or not. Well, they sent me to step by step after.
Oh, is that when you're familiar with that?
Step by step? No.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
It's out in Lawrenceville. It's a great program.
Oh, okay.
And I think the reason that program worked for me was because the other two were, well, Inspire is structured, like very structured. You have to go by their plans that they have throughout the day. Like you have a schedule. You go work at their call center, this and that. But anyway, step by step, it's like you come in, you got like a few weeks to find a job, a real job out in the real world. Basically, you had to have your own accountability.
But that worked for you.
It worked for me.
Worked for you.
Yeah, I got.
Everybody
job
has their own flow,
out.
man. You know what I mean?
That's and then as soon as I started making a little bit of money, one of my friends at the time, it was at Step by Step. He's like, "Hey, you want to come work for me at this company for $5 more at $15 an hour?" And I started doing remodeling.
So you started picking up that trade from there. Yeah. Hey, man, dude, that's cool.
At $15 an hour, I was sitting pretty good. I got my license back, got a car. I was able to pay my weekly fees every week for there.
Right. So I'm getting the gist that things are starting to come together. But now, during this time, are you working a program?
Actually, I was very adamant about my program.
There you go.
As soon as I got out of jail, I was hitting a meeting. I actually went out and found meetings because there was hardly no meetings at the time.
Right.
I started going to SICK. They stayed open through COVID. It's an outside meeting. They had a bonfire. And I took it upon myself to actually go. Like, I went on like the NA.org website or whatever, and I looked up meetings, and some of them would say they were open, some of them said they weren't. So I went around and searched for meetings, and I eventually found a meeting every day, or every day of the week and I started going in a routine every day.
Right.
For like the whole year I went to meetings.
Now that's awesome, dude. But through that process, are you getting a relationship with God? Is that the process that got you to, maybe, I'm not saying weren't a believer before, but did the spiritual aspect of the steps, what did it do with your spirituality?
I kind of kept more of the group as my higher power at the time. It wasn't until later that I came into more of an openness to accept God into my life as part of my recovery.
I think that's
beautiful.
That's how it works, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, like they say in the books or whatever, at least find something greater than yourself. And for me at the time, it was my network in the meetings.
Sure,
and
the fellowship.
Clung on to the fellowship, exactly. And clung on to that. I started doing service work, small service work here and there. Eventually I went, I was a GSR for NA for a while. And then I got, I was the NA or East End Public Relations Chair for a little while.
Oh, wow, okay.
I ended up quitting doing that because of issues with dating somebody is horrible.
The drama.
Right, yeah. Dating someone, got resentments, and then I started finding meetings elsewhere to avoid that particular person.
Well, it's cool that you kept finding meetings, though.
Right.
You know what you had to do. Yeah. So, I mean, we're pushing over, but, I just want to do, number one, thank you so much, man. Again, this is the first time we had a vet on, you know what I mean? And, you gave us a perspective that was, although a lot of stuff was similar, you have a different angle to look at things from, through your military life and what you went through. Again, dude, it's a tremendous service in my eyes to be able to sit there and tell us and be helpful to the people out there. So, but what I would like to do, I would like to end this with one last question. Okay, if you see somebody and let you see somebody that is on the fence about recovery, that is a newcomer, because I think we all know very well that this is really all about the sick and suffering addict. You know what I mean? What kind of words would you give a person just coming into a program or just trying this recovery thing out? What would you say?
I just want them to see. I think it's more of a seeing from how others are doing. That's one of the reasons why I wear my key tags on my keys out and open everywhere I go, is just to show people that I'm proud of my recovery.
Recovering out loud, they say nowadays, right?
But I have parents and family members ask me how to help people all the time, and I usually give them the same answer. They're going to have to want it. They have to hit that point of desperation to want it. But I mean, it's available out there, and I'm willing to help anybody I see struggling, or at least give them a direction of where they can go, a program if they really want it. I know a lot of directors for these programs around here, and there's tons of resources out there.
Thank you, my brother. Again, people, you heard it from my man Ray. If you're looking for recovery, all right, you have to be willing to do it. And if your willingness is there is definitely people. I'm sitting with a room full of people right now that are like, we live our lives to tell you guys, if you're on the fence, if you want recovery, that we're here to help, man. Our numbers are out there. The Most High app, you can email, you can DM right now if you're looking to get some sort of help, man. There's Ministries, there's Sober Livings, there's tons of people, man. All addicts, man, in recovery, trying to help another brother and sister out. So I just want to let that be known, okay? There is sources and there's people to help, man. Ray, thank you again, dude. Great show.
Thanks.
People, listen, the app, all right? The Most High app. It's a Netflix of recovery. You're going to see a polished version of this episode very soon on the app, okay? We got documentaries, we got shows, we got spirituality, we have the steps. We have so much to offer anybody looking for recovery, a family member, that needs to learn about recovery and wants to understand, what addicts go through, what sobriety looks like, what working a spiritual program of recovery is. You will find that information on the Most High app. Plus, we got shirts and hats and all that kind of stuff. Come get you some, man. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. God bless.